I'm not a critic. I'm not an expert. I'm not a scholar. I'm not an intellectual. I'm not a movie buff. But I'm also not a troll. I'm not playing a character. I'm not a contrarian. I'm not the devil's advocate. I'm King Kool. And this time, I'm sure I'm not the only one who hated Star Trek Into Darkness. I tried really hard to give this movie a fair shake. I did everything I could. It was right after I made the video, so I was sort of in a lather about the first movie. By the way, if you haven't seen the first video about the first Star Trek, you should watch that. I'm sure a link will appear over here somewhere. But yeah, some of my objections won't make sense unless you realize, oh, this is something they're doing again. Even the title sort of gets under my skin, and even after watching it, I still don't know what it means, Into Darkness. Damon Lindelof, one of the three screenwriters of this, and I don't think he was a screenwriter on the first one. I think he's new for this one. He went on and said, not that Star Trek Insurrection or First Contact aren't good titles. It's just that everything that people are turned off about when it comes to Trek is represented by the colon. Please note, he said turned off, not like what's bad about it. They're still talking about like mass appeal rather than, you know, quality. So, can you even picture like a bunch of Hollywood executives, like stereotypical ones, saying, well, look, we can't call it John Carter of Mars because, you know, Mars movies didn't test well, so we're going to call it just John Carter, which, you know, doesn't tell you anything about the movie. Now let's call One Shot Jack Reacher, and let's call the new Alex Cross movie, I don't know what the series of those is called, let's call it Alex Cross. Let's call the new Tom Clancy series Jack Ryan. I don't doubt they would call this movie James Kirk if they thought they could get away with it, but I tried very hard to go into this with a positive attitude. I went and saw it with my friends who liked the first one, and I'm like, alright, I'm going to see it, and we're going to have a good time, I'm going to sit here and enjoy it. I've got my eye patch to stop me from having to see it in 3D, because like, I'm definitely not going to enjoy it if it's in 3D. I don't like 3D that much. I saw it the very first night it came out. I'm just like, alright, I'm being here with a crowd, let's just give this movie a shot. And what's the very first thing we see is Kirk running away from a bunch of like alabaster white body painted planet natives, screeching gibberish and throwing spears. The first thing we see is the whole aliens as an analog for a non-Western culture thing. That old chestnut. That's the first thing we see. You hope that it's not that they were thinking, you know, they're going to be like this sort of people, except they're going to be white. They even throw spears like right at the camera to show that it's 3D. It's like, boom, 3D. Because, you know, they have to. So Kirk stole something from the temple to drive the natives. They're called Nibirans, by the way. The planet says it's Nibiru, so I think they're Nibirans. So they have a name, which is an improvement from last time. But he stole something to lead them out of the temple, so that way Spock can go in the volcano and do something to stop from going kablooey. And I'm not so sure that Spock needed to wait to go down there until they were gone. But, you know, whatever. I mean, it's prudent to just be, hey, guys, get out of here. Because later off, a little rock goes and blows up the temple anyway, so it's a good thing they did. But once again, you know, Kirk has super lucky-tude to him. That's his big thing, is being incredibly lucky. Okay, so it looks like we're going to get a little action scene here. So, you know, one of my objections to the first one, obviously, was the over-reliance on cliché dialogue. So, let's see how they do it this time. We have to do this now! If we're going to do this, we gotta do it now! We have to go! Now! Look, it's Hollywood. This is the kind of script you get, so whatever. So Spock goes down on the little line, and he says they want to abort because it's really hot, and they don't know if the shuttle can survive. And they're like, negative, this is the only chance to save the indigenous species. If the volcano erupts, this planet dies. You know what, actually, okay, a volcano can actually cause a large extinction event like this, if it was to throw enough stuff into the atmosphere to block off the sun, or inhibit, you know, plant life, or kill all the algae, or who knows what it could do. It could really kill anything, maybe not everything, but most things on the planet, so that one I'll give them. I'm just hoping that they didn't mean by, if this volcano erupts, this planet dies. I hope they didn't mean like, if this volcano erupts, the planet will crack in half like a coconut. Because that's sort of like saying, oh, if this zit pops, I'm going to die. You know, not impossible, I suppose, but very unlikely. So, big surprise, Spock's lifeline breaks and he falls into the volcano and lands on the one piece of rock that is actually solid in the volcano, because the volcano hasn't gotten around to melting it yet. Which, I mean, I assume they knew it was there because the whole plan involves them putting a little device down and activating it and doing something. So I assume they knew they had a place to sit, so fine, I'll give it to them. That rock is made a double rock, it doesn't even matter. Of course, and they're like, I'm going to go down and to rescue him, and they're like, basically, we get another cliche line where it's, we have to go back for him! Oh, no. We can't just leave him! We have no choice! A lot of these lines, by the way, are Sulu. He gets the short end of the stick in this movie, I tell you what. He doesn't get to do frickin' anything. So, okay, Kirk and Bones is with him, by the way. I didn't mention until now, it wasn't important. I guess they brought the doctor along in case someone got hurt or something, and not just because Kirk and Bones have a lot of fun repartee. Anyway, so they get away from the Nibirians, and they jump off this cliff, and they swim and find the Enterprise underwater, hiding in the ocean. I hope their impulse engines will work when they're underwater, because if they don't, they're just stuck down there. They're just sunk forever. I'm not really going to say necessarily that, like, okay, this is obviously trying to rip off that scene from Avengers where they're rising out of the ocean. I'm not going to say that exactly, because this was in production when that movie came out. Maybe they, heard about it before or something, so I'm not going to quite say that. And I'm also not going to say that maybe the water would just rip the ship apart, because, water is extremely heavy, and this ship is used to flying through, space, which is nothing. Because, it's a spaceship, and maybe it's made of some stern stuff. I'm just trying to give this movie some credit. I'm just like, okay, maybe the ship will survive, and maybe those engines do work underwater. Sure, fine, whatever. Yes, Virginia. So now that they're underwater, they can't, like, leave the water without exposing themselves to the Nibirians to rescue Spock, which they really want to do, but Spock's like, you can't. Doing so will violate the Prime Directive. And stopping a volcano isn't violating the Prime Directive. How? Here's the thing. In the case of Starfleet, if you said, okay, well, I came upon this planet and this thing was going to blow up and possibly destroy this entire ecosystem and cause untold damage, screw the Prime Directive. Of course. I think, Starfleet could even just be like, yeah, look, you did what you thought was right. We've entrusted you with a starship. You're the captain. You get to make calls like this. And if you think it's that important, I bet a lot of crews would be like, well, we can't risk our lives just to save hundreds of people and thousands of distinct species. That's what being a starship captain is making calls like that. So when they come up to it, it's like, oh, well, doing this will violate the Prime Directive. It's like, everything you're doing right now is violating the Prime Directive. Do not quote me Prime Directive right now. It's irrelevant. So, of course, Kirk flies over, he beams him out, he rescues him, Spock goes, you violated the Prime Directive, okay. So, and if you thought Spock was going to eat it in the first 10 minutes of this movie, congratulations. Okay, maybe the stuff that happened on Nibiru does not represent what happens to the rest of the movie. It's just like a cold open. So, one of my major objections was the fact that they would have people made up as aliens that just looked a certain way and had nothing, no names, no anything, no characters, no lines, that just to add flavor to the background of scenes. And maybe they finally got away from that this time. So what's the next scene? We follow this one up. Hang on, let me check. Let's go special internet here. Oh, so Kirk gets woken up and he has to run off to Starfleet, and it turns out he was betting these two extraterrestrial identical twins with tails. The only pair of identical twins in the credits are credited as girl, so they couldn't even come up with a species name for these characters. They're just, oh, here's one with tails. Isn't that cool? Wait, this is supposed to be Caitians? Caitians are cat people. There was a Caitian character in the animated series, and a few others. They're basically cat people. They have manes, they have cat faces and fur, and some of them have, like cat legs and paws and everything like that. And in this movie, the Caitians are supposed to just be basically utterly humanoid, except they have slightly different ears and they have a lion tail. look, I understand that not everyone is Armin Shimarian and can go through the Quark makeup 150 times, you know, and somehow not lose your mind. And I also get that, you know, when you have a limited budget, not everyone can be made up like crazy. Not everyone has to be as far away from human as possible. But this is a movie. Okay, you got a budget for this. You could make them look like cat people. And these characters, by the way, appear in one scene. One shot, I think. It's one unbroken shot. He moves over. They both get up. Boom, end of scene. They're in one shot. So I have to assume they're only on set for one day. Maybe not. I mean, who knows? Maybe there were other shots they got. But, so I don't believe for a second that they're like, oh, it's about the makeup. It's about a budget. They didn't make them cat people because they didn't want them to, they didn't want to obfuscate the actresses' natural and conventional beauty. They didn't want them to have cat faces and these other things. People would be like, ew, that's too weird. This, again, comes down to the whole thing of what appeals to a broad audience, and not what is good or right for Star Trek, or what is good and what isn't silly. I'm not saying the cat people aren't silly. It's very silly. It's incredibly stupid. But they didn't change it because cat people are stupid. They changed it because they wanted to make certain that people would still think these people were beautiful in a way that would immediately come across. And if you think, okay, all these cat people, you can't have cat people in this movie, it's ridiculous. Let me direct you to, what was that movie called? Where they had the really weird cat-like people, except they were blue, and it was one of the biggest movies of all time. Yeah, what was that movie called? Yeah, and it pretty much appealed to as broad of an audience as possible, somehow, just because of the story. What I'm saying is, screw you guys. What I'm saying is, I hope they don't bring the Ferengi into it, because they'll probably just make them all look like movie stars. You know, I'm Ferengi and I look like Montgomery Clift. It's like, you're not really the same. They might keep that rule where the women are not allowed to wear clothes, you know. They might be able to keep that one. That one might gel with their vision of Star Trek, you know, and boobs. Oh, and the Beastie Boys played in this scene too, because of course it frickin' does. I mean, I'm not even mad this time, because, you know what? They established that the Beastie Boys were the most important musical phenomenon of the 20th century. So, yeah, go ahead, keep it. I don't even care. It's fine. So yeah, now that we're out of the litter box, maybe finally Kirk and Spock will have some interesting non-cliche dialogue to do. Maybe I won't have to bring out the action figures that I've hired on a permanent basis to act out scenes that are so cliche because you see them in a million movies. So maybe I won't have to. Please put your hands together and welcome the Inanimate Players! You seem to be in a good mood today.
That's right. I'm going to get this promotion. I'm going to get what gives 2 attitude, and I'm going to give 600%, and I'm going to get me the promotion that I've been looking forward to. So I walk into work today with a very positive attitude.
Okay, bye.
So, did I get the promotion?
Well, see, for this new position, we need someone with character and strength and broad shoulders, everything that you think that you embody at this moment, up until the moment where I turn around and say, you didn't get the promotion. In fact, we've given it to your rival, Double Batman.
What? How could you? That's right. We, Double Batman, are now your new boss. We thank you for this new job. Because in this economy, we cannot turn down any offers. We needed this job very badly. Wait, that was an adverb. We did not need to pluralize that. We are sorry.
So yeah, we've decided that not only do you not get the promotion, we've decided that you're fired. Clean out your desk. And leave the cat, he's out.
No, how could you? Wait a minute. Why were you smiling when you said that I didn't get the promotion? You're not even pretending anymore, are you?
Okay, to give this context, Kirk's excited about that he thinks he's going to get chosen for the 5-year mission. But Admiral Pike calls him in and tells him there's a discrepancy between their 2 reports, his and Spock's. Spock told the truth, and Kirk decided to try to cover it up and lied about what happened in the Nibiru. Not to get sidetracked, but now that the magical space ketchup is gone, maybe they can focus more on the, at least theoretically possible, science fiction that doesn't just, you know, use words that you don't even know what they mean. Like, oh, they've fallen into a quantum tennis court, or whatever the hell they would say, you know, when you don't actually have even the smallest understanding of the science fiction. What does Spock said in his report here? Let's see. He said that the device they used to neutralize a volcano was a cold fusion device. Cold fusion isn't cold! It's just not hot like, you know, the sun! It just means it can happen at room temperature! Maybe a cold fusion device will actually make something cold like the big stupid freezer, but maybe you guys are just a bunch of stupid illiterate asswipes! So Kirk says he had to lie on the report because he had to save Spock's life, like, which I don't get at all, because like that he's the reason he's down there. So I mean, like, if you got the captain's privilege, if you got a ship, you can do whatever you want with it, and there's people who are gonna die if you don't do something, then yeah, go ahead. If you want to make that call, that's your call to make. And if you didn't make the call, nobody would blame you. You know, either one is ethically defensible. So, and if it turns out they're like, look, we don't agree with what you did, we're gonna we're gonna punish you, whatever. You know what? Take your medicine, because you made the decision in the moment, and you can't regret that. But you can't lie on the report when you talk about it. That is not acceptable. You have to be honest when you're talking about this. This thing that he just did should end his career. Also, it's been 200 years since Vulcans made contact with humans. So I'd like to think that the racial epithet that Kirk unleashes here, which I'm not going to repeat, would not be acceptable from anyone in Starfleet at this point in history. I get there's going to be tensions between certain people, there's going to be tensions between the Kardashians and the Bajorans and things like that, but I don't think any of them just would unleash a slur like this. So this should also just completely deep six his career. Right there. This is also, the problem with this scene is that they're just bickering again, which might have been another objection I had of the first one, the fact that so much of the character dialogue between people is just bickering back and forth. Oy. Okay, so Pike starts, berating him and telling me, like, I saw greatness in you, but you don't have any humility, and blah, blah. You know what I could do my whole life without ever seeing again in a movie? People talking about how great a character is supposed to be. How much greatness someone is born with. Did you guys see Pacific Rim? You know what's cool about that movie? The main character is one of the best, giant robot pilots who's out there, but he falls away from the scene, but then later he's like, hey, they want to bring him back. But then, even though they're like, you were good, they're not like, you were destined to be great. You were destined to be this. He wasn't destined for crap. It's like, you know what, we got these giant monsters that are coming out of a hole in the ground, and if you want to come here and possibly help kick their ass, that would be swell. If you want to come in here and work for your supper, then come on. But no one's going to kiss your ass. No one's going to be like, you're so great, you're so this. Work for it. Come out there and hurt something, Maybe you'll save the world. Maybe you won't. You might have the best chance. We don't know. But the only people who have any chance are people who work for it. There's nothing about being born good. This predestination crapola. Wouldn't it be great if they just stopped clucking about how great Kirk was instead of this racist, lying, philandering, tool that they've turned Kirk into? Wouldn't that be great if we stopped talking about how great this loser was? So, they take the Enterprise away from Kirk, and Spock gets transferred. And I'm sort of like, oh, maybe we're going to separate the cast for a little bit here. Maybe we're going to get away from all the incredible contrivances that just turned the plot into a pretzel in the first movie to get the crew together. Maybe we're going to get away from all this. So then they give the Enterprise back to Pike, and he needs to pick a first officer because Spock was transferred. So who does he pick for his first officer? He picks Kirk. Kirk is not ready to be captain, but he's ready to be first officer, the second in line. You're not ready to be president, so I'm going to make you vice president. This is the first 20 minutes of the movie! This is how optimism just gets crushed. Because you watch them knock over every domino and check every checkmark and make all the mistakes that they made last time. Because apparently they didn't listen to anyone who went out and saw the first one. It was like, you know what? The first Star Trek kind of sucked. And the funny thing is, I have not spoiled anything substantive about the plot at all. If you still want to see it, I haven't said anything about the main thrust. It hasn't even started yet. But I will talk about the rest of this movie in a future video. I'll cover all the problems that develop further on. But for right now, we're just talking about the opening. And so this is just an experiment to see if I can talk about just one part of a movie and have substantive commentary to inflict on you all. If you have a comment, please leave it, if we can still talk about these things, if you like or dislike. If you'd rather talk about the whole movie in one big chunk, that was the thing. That other video was so long. This one might be long too, but I don't think it'll be 40 minutes long. So anyway, thank you all for watching. This is King Kool. Drive home safe. Now, you have to use the... Not using that take.